Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of February 26, 2026. This is a traditional in-house meeting, which also has a Zoom link access, making it available remotely. For the record, the Zoom link is meeting ID 869-7794-2892. I recognize in attendance myself, Joe Parisi, on the Zoom, Michael Nyman, and going to my right, Lauren Naughton, Ron Wilson, Axel Ruiz, and Peter Canavo. And I declare we have a quorum. First order of business, the approval of minutes of January 29th and February 12th meeting.
I move for the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Made and seconded, roll call.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Miss Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Minutes are approved. Our second order of business is our consent agenda, which is going to entertain a motion to give approval to the chair to sign the following decisions. 112 Eastern Avenue, 4 Rana Road, 9 Gee Avenue, and 44 Vine Street. I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the decisions as stated.
Second.
Made and seconded, roll call.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Ruiz,
Yes.
Miss Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. I'm going to take a couple things out of order. Andrew Leonard here. Be online. The application of Harbor Light Homes is the 40B on Main Street. Andrew's going to be on to ask for another continuance as the engineering back and forth with Weston and Sampson continues, and it's finally getting close. Andrew?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. I apologize. I'm not able to be there in person. I did want to provide the update that we submitted responses to the stormwater comments and made some design changes to the project based on the peer reviewer's feedback. The biggest items were the peer reviewer had noted some issues with basically the stormwater detention system. We did some additional testing on site that showed that we knew there was ledge present, but it was closer to the surface than we'd originally thought. So basically what we had to do is kind of raise the infiltration basin higher. There's not really a good space for, since there's so much ledge that the stormwater is not going to infiltrate into the ground. It's just going to run off the ledge. So what we've done is revise the stormwater plans to capture that and kind of slow the release of it into the existing drainage infrastructure on the street. So that is now with Weston and Sampson for their review. The good thing is the stormwater and the design changes didn't change anything about the dimensions of the footprint of the building. Basically, the only thing that really changed was that the elevation of the parking lot was raised slightly. So we were able to accommodate it and address their comments there. But we look forward to getting their feedback and discussing it at the next meeting.
Okay. And one thing, we're going to need a letter giving us an additional 30-day extension. You can send that to Attorney Egan.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. What do you think on timing? Really quick, 2 weeks, but
yeah, we're ready to discuss it. So it's really more a matter of the peer reviewer and their ability to be ready to present it. I would think 2 weeks is probably sufficient,
okay.
but it would depend on them.
Well, we'll continue it I'll take a motion to continue 256 Main Street to March 12th.
I'll make a motion to continue application of Harbor Light Community Partners, Harbor Light Homes for comprehensive permit, 40B to construct multifamily 29 units at 256 Main Street to March 12th.
Motion
Second.
made. Seconded by Michael. Roll call.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Miss Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew. We're going to do one more out of order. This one was due to a clerical error. So I think it'll be really quick. This is the application of Julie Garisi seeking a special permit of variance to convert a two-family dwelling into a three-family dwelling at 9 Cleveland Place.
Good evening. I'm attorney Patricia Johnstone. I'm representing Julie Garisi. And as you pointed out, it is a permit that was issued in 2016, originally a variance. However, her dad did not get the building permit, which he did pull, which is on record, signed off in time, so that we needed to bring it back here. But since then, two of the zoning variances that were granted for lot area as well as per dwelling unit had no longer need to be satisfied. Those have changed and become less restrictive. So this evening, all we would require would be a 10-foot variance for lot width. It still meets all the same social economic standards that the board granted on the first time. And with the assistance of the building inspector, this has been quite an easy and pleasurable experience, actually.
So we'll issue a new decision on a variance for lot width, correct?
That's correct.
And the three unit is now allowable. Any discussion by the board?
Have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, I'm going to take public testimony. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application for 9 Cleveland Place, please come up forward or raise your hand. Anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to granting this permit variance? No. Seeing none, we'll close public testimony.
Joe, I think I'm confused as to what we're doing here. I understand there's a lot width variance being requested. So are these 3 units in existence now? I'm just not quite understanding what we're doing.
Yeah, this was all built out. It was permitted by the board. It was permitted and built.
Yep.
The applicant's father, who occupied the 3rd unit that they put in, there's no exterior changes. It's all
Yep.
inside the building. And in nowadays regulations, it meets everything except that lot width now. So to reactivate the variance, we're only having to reactivate the variance for the lot width.
So was it not registered? I'm just not understanding.
What?
What- Why is she before us?
Because the building permit never got closed out, and now it's nowhere to be found.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I think we're just squaring up.
We're cleaning things up, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
No changes.
Yep, sure.
We'll take a motion.
On the application of Julie Garisi seeking a special permit and variance for lot width to convert a two-family dwelling into a three-family dwelling at 9 Cleveland Place. I move for approval.
Second. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Miss Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can drop us off the draft. Back to our regular agenda. Continued hearings. The application of Rebuild Gloucester LLC is appealing the calculation of a fee in lieu of payment under GZO 5.11 for inclusionary housing requirements at 6810 Orchard Road and 2224 Grapevine Road. Attorney Favaz.
Thank you. I did. I just have to click it. Thank you. Had to be. One moment while this loads up. I'm tethered today. Okay. Good evening. For the record, my name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street. I represent Rebuild Gloucester LLC. I'm going to share my screen in a moment and walk you through our appeal.
Joel, just make sure and hold that mic nice up to
Yes,
your
sir.
chin, please. Thanks.
Yep. There we go. So here we go. You should all be familiar with this property. I've been here before you on this previously. The appeal tonight is we are appealing the decision of the building inspector. He has tagged the most recent building permit application as the date from which the 3-year look-back period on the fee in lieu is calculated, and we're asking you to overturn that and tag it to the original application to remain consistent with your previous decision interpreting this ordinance on this project. So background for you who do not remember, the petitioner is the initial owner of the 5 parcels as divided. He still owns 3 of them. These lots were created pursuant to an A&R in 2022. There's still the existing house from 10 Orchard, and there's since been a 4-unit condominium constructed against 2 of the properties. The 2 Grapevine properties remain vacant. In March of 2025, we appealed determination by the building inspector about segmentation for 22 and 24 Grapevine. As you recall, we thought the 36-month look-back period for segmentation ran building permit to building permit. Mr. Vicari thought it ran starting at the occupancy permit, and then this board said, actually, you're both wrong. The word application means, as this is a single project, the word application means the initial application that created these 5 lots. So the look-back period for the 36-month segmentation calculation was the 2022 A&R. And so in October, we reached out and said, okay, well, we need to figure out what the fee in lieu is going to be. We should be tying this to that application date, the 2022 A&R, and going back 3 years for the calculation. And Mr. Vicari said, no, I'm tying it to the most recent application going back 3 years from there. And so again, we expected some consistency in we didn't appeal your decision to Superior Court. We just kind of, licked our wounds and said, okay, this is how this works. This is the application that pegs everything together. We will go forward. And so then we got this kind of contradictory ruling, and we're asking you tonight to bring it into line. That's the relief we have here, asking you that the 3 years preceding the date of the application, it's referring to the same application you said the previous look-back period was referring to. So I won't get too deep into a law school class here, but there's something called the presumption of consistency when you are using statutory interpretation. And I have 3 quick quotes. One is from a Supreme Court case in '94. A term appearing in several places in statutory text is generally read the same way each time it appears. Next one is from Justice Antonin Scalia in what was called Reading Law, the Interpretation of Legal Text. He says, a word or phrase is presumed to bear the same meaning throughout the text. In a given statute, the same term usually has the same meaning, and different terms usually have different meanings. Pretty basic stuff. And the last one is a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling from 2002. When the legislature uses the same term in the same section, the term should be given a consistent meaning throughout. And so here we have the 2 times you see application next to a 3-year period. Up top, we have 511.3. That was the segmentation one we dealt with earlier in 2025. And the phrase there is the number existing 36 months prior to an application. Down in red is what we're talking about right now, which says the 3 years preceding the date of the application. And so according to the zoning board, 511.3.2, the number existing 36 months prior to an application equals the original application that started the project. According to Mr. Vicari, 3 years preceding the date of the application somehow means something different, a different application, even though we're doing the same exercise, finding the application, triggering the ordinance, and looking back 3 years. And so to be clear, just to compared these against these, the quotes I gave you, both these sections are within the same subsection of the GZO 511. The word application is not given in its own definition anywhere inside of 511. The one before you tonight, 511.5.1, actually refers to the application, suggesting that the application in question has to be the same one discussed in other places in that section. And so there's no reason, based on the text, to give the word application two different meanings a few inches from each other in the same subsection of the same zoning ordinance, especially where it's the same exercise. They use 36 months in one and 3 years in the other, but it's the same thing. Pick the application, look back 3 years. I think it's also important to remember that this board upheld the building inspector determination that this was a single project. We had said, hey, listen, we think that what's going on in these orchard condos is unrelated to what's going on the Grapevine side. You said, nope, it's a single project. We have to look at this in totality. And in doing so, your decision that you signed or authorized the chair to sign states that the 2022 A&R was, quote, the fixed point application subjecting this project to the inclusionary housing ordinance. The last thing I'll point out is just kind of a pragmatic thought exercise. There's a table in the zoning ordinance that talks about as building permits issue, you have to pay percentages of the fee in lieu. And so if you don't have that fee in lieu tied to the initial application, the percentages never line up, because if you had a 40% fee coming due in 1 year, and then you have the 70% fee coming due the next year, you'd be calculating those percentages against different 3-year periods. And when you tally them all up, you'd never get to 100% because each year that number would change. So the only way this makes sense is if you're looking forward at how many units are we going to end up with, and then tying it back to that original application date as you ruled back in the summer of 25. So again, we're just asking you to please politely, respectfully overturn Mr. Vicari's determination that the application or the word application refers to the recent building permit, and instead say no. The word application means the same thing we said it did back in August. Application means the original application subjecting this property to the inclusionary housing ordinance, which you have determined is the 2022 A&R application. And just to, this is not me here quibbling. It's a matter of, it's $85,000 of importance to the applicant. It goes from $550, which he has paid. He has paid the full $550 that Mr. Vicari asked for, but per the calculation all against the 2022, the fee is actually $465. So it's an $85,000 return to my client. And we just think that it's the right thing to do, as the ruling you made is what we based this calculation on. Thank you.
Are you saying he's paid the 550 already?
He paid the full $550.
At what time? In what period?
We paid when Mr. Vicari said he had to. We had a building permit pending. We said we'd like to pay
This year, you mean?
2025.
25, right.
Yeah.
So we were getting some feedback saying when you elect to make the payment in lieu of, and that choice wasn't made in 2022. So no one knew that. I mean, if I see every permit, but he wasn't making those payments, right?
The payment didn't
He
come.
didn't elect to make in lieu of until this year, 2025.
He had not. We had been proceeding until your ruling under previous building inspector's guidance that as long as he did not create more than 5 within 36 months and then waited, he was not going to be subject to creating a unit or paying a fee. Then this board said, no, in fact, you are subject, and we don't care if you wait a decade, you're subject as of June of 2022. And so we said, okay. And then, so then we went to move forward with the very next unit. Mr. Vicari said, hey, you heard the board, you're subject to this, pay the fee. And we said, okay, well, the fee should be tied back to the first date. And he said, no, it's tied to this date. And we said, the word application can't mean two things. If you say the word application and 36 months prior is tied to 2022, then when you have to go the application and look 3 years prior, again, a few inches down the statute, you have to use the same thing, unless the text, which it does not, specifically differentiated those two applications, you have to give the word application the same meaning. And you, the board, told us very clearly in a written decision after lengthy discussion exactly what the application pertaining to this development was, and it was a 2022 A&R.
But you made an application for a permit in the fall of 2025, correct?
Yes, and when and prior to that,
And-
sorry,
And the statute, it uses application, but it says an application, it says any application, and it contemplates that there'll be more than one application for a given project, potentially.
so
So
funny enough,
consistent.
it uses the phrase "an applications." I don't know if you were on the board at the time, but the argument I was making back in April and June.
I was here.
Okay, so the argument I was making at the time was the segmentation uses the word "an application," and we were saying that.
Right, that's true. That's for multiple applications that are seeking to avoid the intent of the project,
Right.
of this statute, and that's why. So.
Right, and so the
Absolutely consistent to consider that an application in October.
So again, the argument that I made to you back in the summer that you all unanimously rejected was that application was pertaining to the then current application. Because if it was, then the segmentation section that says look back 36 months prior to an application would have allowed my client not to have been subject to it. He said, no. Application in the context of this, I'm not even like pulling in a different property, but you said application in the context of this ordinance and this project is the 2022 A&R. And so now to have any other interpretation, and most interestingly is although the segmentation uses "an," which supposes multiple applications, this one says "the," right? So you've determined what the application is. There's one, it's the application. And the application, according to you, which we have abided by, is the 2022 A&R. To go otherwise, it's heads I win, tails you lose, right? If it can't be the application means the 2022 A&R when it's, detrimental to my client, and then when he's relying on that to have some benefit, say, no. Now the same exact word, same exact exercise, looking 36 months or 3 years prior, because we want, more money, we're going to define this totally different. It's, again, I don't mean this in like a crime sort of, but it's illegal interpretation, right? It's a very basic statutory interpretation. So I provide you this quotes. Unless this ordinance defines application specifically, you are bound to apply it and interpret it the same way each time. And you have already made a ruling that has not been appealed, that is solid, and that is permanent, that the application, when looking back 36 months, is the 2022 A&R, and I'm just asking for a little consistency.
What was the triggering application that forced the payment of the in lieu?
The ruling by this board in the summer. So the next time he went to pull any permit, he had to come up, and he had already gone beyond. He was beyond 30%, right? But my client was beyond 30%, and so to even get the next unit, he had to kind of catch up to where that schedule would have them. The reason he hadn't paid previously, again, was because we're all operating on the impression that he was not going to be required to provide anything. So it was the ruling of this board, which again, not just said that my client and Mr. Sanborn were incorrect, but also that Mr. Bakari was incorrect. This was a brand new ruling for the first time ever saying that, no. The word application in the context of 511 means that first development application. And in the case of this particular project, the decision that you issued states unequivocally, application refers to the 2022 A&R.
I don't know how to make this a question, so it's going to be a statement. Context. The decision that was made last year stated that in the context of determining a project was the first application. And now we have a triggering application for a building permit or whatever just had to be submitted in October. There was no requirement when you only had 5 units. Now you want to build more units. It triggers it. The context of the language, as I understand the English language, means at this event.
So that's, with all due respect, that's actually incorrect. Up until your ruling, we had it, but the trigger would have been the third unit. When he went to build the third unit, he would have hit 30%. And at that point, the applicant would have been required to pay 10% of the fee in lieu. The only reason he's up to the 40%.
Did he say he was going to build 6 units back then?
10 units.
Was there anything on file that said he was going to build more than the trigger amount of units back then?
Well, no, there's an A&R showing 5 lots. But however, again, it's interesting.
But how many units were going to be built? In 2022, how many units were going to be built on this property?
9 new units.
And there was something filed that indicates that there were 9 units.
No, but again, this is
I think you answered my question.
this is deja vu through a mirror, because I stood here and had a very similar conversation where I said, you know, how could you possibly know in 2022? What if he had just built single families in all of them? How could you tie it back? He said, nope, the development starts when the word application, when we're looking back 36 months, is when the development starts. It doesn't matter when you cross the threshold. Again, going to your question about who's to know, how does one ever know you're at 30% of anything unless you know what 100% is, right? This whole use table schedule that this fee in lieu goes by presupposes you must know the end result number of units in order to calculate what 30% of them are. So
And the reason why none was triggered back then is because it wasn't a 6-unit project at that time, and now it is. And the triggering event, the context is the application that's current and triggers it is the one that sets off the calculation, just as the application, still the same use of the word application, however modified, being the first one, triggers the project and the non-segmentation. So these are 2 completely different things, and I think you're just trying to muddy the water.
when I came before you this summer, including the original house, there were only 5 units on the property. By your argument just now tonight, we would not have been subject to the inclusionary housing ordinance with just 5. However, this summer, this board unanimously voted to say this thing became subject to the inclusionary housing ordinance in June or July of 2022. And
That's not what the decision was. The decision was that you can't carve this up and segment a project that goes over multiple years. So, and your request was based on, we want to do more development now. Is it still one project? So I don't agree.
Again, I'm quoting. The board, you, interprets GZO section 511 at the time 3.2, the initial development application as the fixed point for establishing the 36-month look-back period. Right, the initial development application.
Period. And the context is the look back period. When you go over to the next page, in the next section, you're talking about a calculation, and the context has thus changed. It is still an application, so it fits Scalia's and all the other eminent scholars' description. It's just that the context has changed.
Again, I'm quoting. The first one is, quote, the number existing 36 months prior to an application. And the second one is the 3 years preceding the date of an application. And you're stating to me tonight, without the word application having any description to the contrary, that 36 months prior to an application means something radically different than 3 years preceding the date of an application. Those are practically the same sentence said with slightly different words. And none of the quotes I gave you tonight talks about context other than the context of unless a word is given a clearly different meaning, the duty of the interpreting body is to interpret it the same way each time. And this isn't even just about the word application. It's literally the word application juxtaposed with looking back 3 years. 36 months prior to an application and 3 years preceding the date of an application. That is the same. It's not even just the word application. It's the same task. There's an application. You have to decide what that is and look back 3 months, 3 years rather. And you were very clear this past summer that when you're looking back 36 months from the application, it was going to be the June or July 2022 A&R. And again, I appreciate that you want to read this additional context in, but if that was the case, that is not what your decision says. Your decision should not call the initial development application the fixed point for establishing the 36-month look back. Those are your words, not mine. I was arguing kind of what you're arguing tonight back at the time, saying we should be rolling this each building permit. And you said, no, application means the first one. It's just consistency. Again, heads I win, tails you lose otherwise.
The decision we made last year was in regard to your applicants wanting to say, we're not going to get to the 6 that's going to require us to. You wanted to separate the projects. And we said, no. You did your A&R. This was a project. It had the ability to build 10 units. How many you choose to build didn't matter. But when you got to 6, that was when the fee was going to be due to be calculated. And I just don't, how do you go back? So if you wouldn't start paying it if you had no idea you were going to build the 6th unit. You obviously didn't start paying it. You can argue whatever you want that you didn't think you had to, but that's not our responsibility. That's yours.
Couldn't one game it the other way though? In this hypothetical, again, 30% is the first trigger. 30% you owe 10% of the fee, or sorry, 30% you either 10% of the fee, or you have to have 10% of the affordable units constructed. So if I could have a project and I say, well, it's an A&R, it's got 5 lots, that's 10 by right, and then I get to the point where you go, okay, well, you're at 3 units, that's 30% of 10. They go, oh no, I'm going to be back for multifamily permits. I'm actually going to build 3 in each lot. I'm going for 15, so 30% doesn't trigger until 5. And then I go build my 5th permit. And I go, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go to the city council and get 4 families in all of these. So my total is actually going to be 20, and my 30% doesn't trigger, for another unit. And you keep playing this game of, well,
Yeah, you played a lot of games with this, but the point would be how do you set the value?
how do you know?
You kick it ahead 15 years, you're going to pay it 15 years value, not 15 years earliest value. That's the argument tonight. What's the value?
If your client had committed and, made the 30% payment at any time in the past, had made the calculation, I would say you would be justified in paying a calculation calculated 3, 4, 5 years ago. But they didn't. They held the view that we're not going to trigger it. And so the clock never started.
Well, also,
And now the clock has started and the correct calculation is based on the permit last fall.
but again, both the applicant and the building department agreed. So it wasn't like he didn't pay a fee. He was never assessed a fee because the building department at the time also believed he was not due the fee and also believed that if he took the time he was taking, he was not going to ever need to provide the fee or the unit. So it wasn't like he was skirting anything. He was, again, starting with Mr. Sanborn and later Mr. Vicari, who again, even Mr. Vicari this summer agreed in his argument that as long as 36 months ran from a certain point, he could avoid ever building an affordable or ever paying a fee. And the board, for the first
Said,
time,
no way. That was not the intent and purpose of that ordinance.
No, and that's why you said we were both wrong. But it's not that he was not paying a fee that he'd been assessed. It was, again, no one thought the fee was applicable. And then this summer, you said, no, you're locked in back in 2022 to this 5-lot development. And again, your words, the fixed point is the initial development application. If
Do with segmentation. You could kick the can forever and never build the affordable unit, or build it at 10% of the value in 2035. You want to use 2020's value for a kick, and you could have not kicked it into place till 2030 because you don't want to pay for to build the affordable unit. It costs too much. So they say, okay, well, I consider it you're now electing to pay in lieu of. And that's the date the value should take place.
If that was the
Still
case,
go either way with it. You could still say, no, we're going to build an affordable unit. But you want to pay in lieu of, and you made that decision in October.
because,
Until then, you had no intention of doing the pay in lieu of.
because it wasn't until August that you told us that we were triggered back in 2022.
We told you, we didn't change the law. We just told you your interpretation of it was wrong.
As with Mr. Vicari's, as with Mr. Sanborn's.
All of them. Yeah, they all did.
Right.
They do it.
So you can't say, well, if you had paid the fee back when you were building the second unit or the third unit, no one knew we had to pay the fee back then. That's the whole point, right? It wasn't like we knew and we didn't do it. No one said, hey, you're building a third unit. You're at 30%. Here comes 10% of the fee is due, and it's tied to, the beginning of this project. That never happened. I just don't know how you can say an application is one thing and then,
We have
is
a
it-
public hearing on this.
yes, I'll end.
Well,
my-
we're going to, he's appealing, and we're going to have the building commissioner defend.
I think we should move along with
Yep.
it because we're hearing
Yep.
the same thing over and over again.
All right. Mr. Bakari. What's your
So
thought?
I'm Rob Vicari, Building Commissioner, City of Gloucester. So how I interpret this was, no one said he had to pay the in lieu payment. After that hearing and in the summer, where you guys declared it as one project, he still has the ability to build an affordable. What triggers everything is the very next permit that he applies for. He has to make a determination at that point if he's going to do an affordable or pay in lieu of. And once he made the decision they were paying in lieu of, we were not going to issue a building permit until he paid a certain percentage. His client decided not to pull one permit, but two permits for the remaining two parcels of project, which is why the percentage is a full 100%, because that is what he was doing. He's putting in the last final two duplexes for 4 more units. He could very easily have done one of those affordable, and we wouldn't be sitting here right now. We wouldn't have had to pay the money. It's
The value-
his client's decision to make the determination whether or not they want to do one affordable or in lieu of. And when he makes that decision, which is the 6th building permit, which would trigger the 6th unit, triggers whether or not he has to do an affordable or in lieu of. And this is why we made the determination of what he was paying.
Right. Because if he stopped at 5, there's no inclusion.
Nope. Could have left those things vacant till the
What is that dollar amount based on? And where did you come?
It's a 3-year setback from, I believe it was 2025, and it goes back 3 years, and it's done by the assessor, the city assessors.
They gave you the number.
They give us a number.
All right. Thank you. We'll take open a public hearing and take testimony. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the appeal? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the appeal? That would mean that you agree the building commissioner decision is wrong. I see none. Anyone wishing to speak against the appeal and in favor of the building commissioner's decision? Anyone wishing to speak on that side? No one. Close public testimony, discussion by the board.
I've expressed my views.
Yep.
Context. That's the way the English language works. They're in separate sections. They have separate meanings, but in the separate context. But it's still an application.
Michael? Thoughts?
I think I'm probably still confused a little bit. It's not cut and dry and real clear. for me.
I'm just trying to understand the whole process and stop me when I'm running off. So the applicant came before us, tried to find a way and not paying that fee back when they first filed that application. And so they stopped that sixth building and just stayed put for a while, correct? And then after that, they decided to build the sixth building and decided not to build an affordable unit, but they wanted to pay the fee. And now they want to pay based on the value of that from the original date, which was 2022, instead of what it would be now, because that application was pulled back in October. Well, when was that application pulled?
Put in on October
In October. Okay,
for 2 more units.
for 2 more units. Okay, I get it. So I'm following what's happening, and to me, I think if you're pulling in a new permit, is it a new permit? Then, yeah, I think you would have to pay what the current value of those units would be. I mean, I know that's, if I pull a permit, I'm paying what's current, not from, especially if I mean, I know it's not apples to apples, but if I apply for a permit and the permit kind of exceeded its time, and I apply for a new permit, they're gonna base the cost of that permit on today's value, not 3 years ago.
Right, and I think they could have chosen initially to make an application for 7, 6.
Lauren, speak into your mic, please.
I am, sorry.
Yep.
They could have made a decision initially in 2022 to put in an application for 6 units or 7 units, and then made an election to either build an affordable housing unit or do a fee in lieu. Our decision this summer was really about the impact of the segregation provision of this inclusionary housing ordinance. And we made the determination that we look at really the substance of it, and that it was contemplated from the beginning that it was going to trigger this statute. Now, there can be many applications for permits along the way, and nobody was aware that there would in fact be 6 units until the fall of 2025. So that, to me, logically triggers the time at which you make the calculation whether either payment in lieu or build the affordable housing unit, because nothing was before anyone before that.
Right, because if they decided to do that even further down the road, they would have to pay the fee based on the current timeline, not 2022.
Right, and I think what justifies that is because if they chose to build the affordable unit, it would be much more expensive not to build it as the first one,
Correct,
to build it today.
correct.
You know, it's gone up in price, and the values of each home has gone up in price. And the assessors set the amount, and I guess that's,
Yep.
I get
And
it.
that's
Thank you.
consistent with the intent of the statute.
Okay. If anyone wants to make a motion, now it'll be a motion to approve the appeal, but if you're against the appeal, you would vote no. Has to be a positive motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the appeal by applicant Rebuild Gloucester LLC regarding the calculation of a fee in lieu of payment under GZO 511 for inclusionary housing requirements at 6, 8, 10 Orchard Road and 22, 24 Grapevine Road.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. To approve the appeal. Roll call.
Natasha, I want to vote last.
You say?
He's going to vote last.
Okay.
Mr. Canavo,
No.
Mr. Ruiz,
No.
Ms. Norton,
No.
Mr. Parisi,
No.
Mr. Nyman.
Yes.
Okay, the appeal is denied. Moving on. Our next continued application is the application of T&J Real Estate Investment LLC, seeking to modify an existing special permit at 6 Parker Court. Now, on my agenda is wrong. It says to exceed the maximum building height. We turned that down. The one thing before us is just the modify the existing permit.
Are you good to go? All right. Again, for the record, my name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street. I'm here on behalf of T&J Real Estate Investments LLC, 6 Parker Court. Be as brief as I can about this. As the chairman pointed out, the updated request is to simply modify the existing special permit to align with the updated plan set that was submitted on February 19th. There's no additional relief necessary. The 2.5, 2.6 feet that is currently constructed is intended to be demolished and removed, and the height be brought down to no higher than 30 feet above average grade. And that's just a copy of the letter that went out. The full set of plans are here. They're also in your file. Again, this shows the 30-foot measurement above average grade to the top of the roof. Just a set of profiles. So the only permit we have to, the standard we have to apply here is you have to find that modifying the permit, the interests of the neighborhood and the city are not impaired. So we are still in the same footprint. So the nonconformity here, nonconformity is related to distance from property lines, property size, that sort of thing. None of that is changing. The use, 2-family, is not changing. This is all cosmetic at this point. We have a different roof line, different architectural style. It is 3.5 feet taller than the previous plan, but it is not, quote unquote, too tall per the zoning ordinance. It has similar massing. There's one section that I think was built out more than was built out in previous ones. So this kind of shows you the one on the right was the prior plans. One on the left is the most recent. That's the front elevation. Again, you can see the one on the left is 3.5 feet taller than the one on the right, but again, is not, quote unquote, too tall. So just preemptively, any concerns about views, et cetera, are not criteria at this point. We've been eliminated from all that by getting under the maximum height. That is the rear elevation. You can still see again, the massing is all there. It's just, squared off now. And that is from the right side. You can see there's more mass, as you can see from the side profile. That's the right side. And the left side, you can see there's more mass on the upper level. And so you have to make sure there was due notice in a public hearing. The applicant has complied with the procedures, and there has to be good cause. And again, as I argued last time, this was not, the first time we were here, a year plus ago, the applicant exceeded his permit. He acknowledged it, I acknowledged it on his behalf. You had not given him permission to fully demolish the building. After a wall collapsed, he just took the thing down without getting permission. That is not what happened here. He relied on inspectional services. There was mutual mistake here. He constructed the building according to plans, and the permit, unfortunately, granted relief that it wasn't supposed to. So just building permit timeline again to make sure we're all on this. March of last year, he applies for a building permit. It goes into internal review at the city. April 3rd, he sends in updated plans showing, both by scale and by written number, a 35-foot tall height above average grade. On April 16th, the building department issues a building permit to frame the house according to the plans and specifically notes the height at 35 feet, which I'm highlighting right here. So the building permit itself authorizes 35 feet of height. This was not being authorized 30 and going too high. This was not, submitting one set of plans to the building inspector and buildings to be different. He was building exactly what had been authorized by the building permit. Then there was a modification. He wanted to go from a peaked roof with dormers to a flat roof. Again, reached out to Special Services, got the okay, updated the plans, submitted them. And it wasn't until the as-built started coming in that Mr. Vicari noticed that his department had missed the height the first time around. Said, wait, you got to stop. I can't authorize 35 feet in height. We came to this board. You said, hey, we're not going to authorize anything over 30, so you got to go figure that out. And so what we did was make sure that he could still get that top level and still tuck it under the 30 feet, which he has done. So again, there's no height permit requested. There's no additional relief requested. It's the same footprint, same use. This is just the, kind of the original standard is the nonconformities, which again are distance from street and, lot qualities. Are those going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what was there previously? We're not changing any of those. The only thing that's changing is the architectural style of the building and the allowable height of the building. So I ask please for a modification pursuant to the plan submitted February 19th.
Can you explain to us how he's making the building shorter?
Yep, hold on one second. So if you don't mind, I'll put the plans back up. So currently as built, the building is about here. So it's so sloppy. Hold on, I have an unsteady hand with the mouse. But the building is 2.5 feet taller than this plan is showing. The roof is up here somewhere. And that is what's constructed on the ground. And he is going to undertake the expense and labor of taking down everything that's up here all the way down to 30 feet. The windows did not used to sit at the ridge of the roof. There was distance between the top of the windows and the ceiling and the roof itself. And now it's coming all the way down to almost the very top of those windows to get under 30. So it's just literally going to demolish, going to pull the roof off, shorten all the walls by 2.5 feet, and put the roof back on. Or rebuild the roof. Mr. Priest, you know better than I don't know how much of it is salvaged from that, whether he has to redo it entirely, but that's the concept, is that the roof.
Well, the concern is he going to end up with habitable space on that top floor? Or is he going to have to abandon using it because it don't appear you're going to have enough ceiling height?
So that is a building code question, and I think you're absolutely right on that. If there is not sufficient ceiling height up there, it would not be habitable space. You'd have to use it as storage or otherwise. And when Mr. Vicari or his crew get up there for a final inspection to sign off on occupancy permit, I'm sure he's gonna have his tape measure and his laser ready. And if he says, hey, this ceiling's only, 5'10", I don't think so, then that's not gonna be habitable space. And as we've discussed previously in a different context, it's a close neighborhood, lots of windows. I'm very confident that if someone tries to, a future owner of this tries to shirk that, people notice pretty quickly, that they spend a lot of time in the attic. They seem to be watching TV in the attic, right? I'm pretty sure there'll be on-site monitoring. If it meets the code, it meets the code. I don't know myself, but I know that it will be subject to those regulations, and we're certainly not asking you, the zoning board, to exempt them from anything like that. I do, Rosalie. If the board will allow me, I'll scan to it.
Yeah.
Rosalie would like me to show the backside of the house, and I'd love to if the chair is okay with me going to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. That's the backside of the house. And I can scroll forward to the backside of the house. On the left is what's proposed now. The backside of the house on the right is what had been previously permitted. So again, the massing is the same. It steps down on the left-hand side. And although it's now flat roof instead of peaked roof, the bisectional dormers were still blocking off. Not that we're getting into a height and a view conversation, but just pragmatically, you had a lateral line running both directions 90 degrees.
But the original was 26 feet.
Yes, but again, up until 30, it's all allowable height.
No, I know.
But yes, it is taller than what was originally permitted, but again, not quote unquote too tall or to the point where view obstruction, shadowing, that sort of stuff comes into review. Because you denied that.
Applicant? Questions of the applicant?
No, I was going to ask about the height as you did. So that's
All righty. Okay, we'll take open public hearing. And anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the application to amend the permit, please come forward or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Anyone in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the modification, please come forward. Give us your name and address first for the record. And if you're on Zoom, you can hit your raise hand button if you want to join in.
So, my name is Rosalini Castro, and I live on 8 Stanley Court. When we were here at the last meeting, I think you guys told the lawyer that he had to present new plans. Was there a cease order on, at that time?
What order?
Stop to work on the house at that time?
No.
So they could still work on the house? Even though
Yeah.
he had to present new plans to you?
So he had a stop work order. He has permission to continue working, but he's at his own risk. So whatever he's doing right now, if it has to get torn down, it's at his own risk. He's allowed, I gave him permission because it was a zoning issue, not a code violation. So he's going to end up tearing the siding off. He's going to have to tear the roof off because he's got to drop it below 30 feet.
I have pictures of him working on the 18th of this month, and I didn't know if there was a stop order.
Yeah, that would be a
So that
no.
was okay. And my other question is, when he showed the pictures of the back of the house, the door is still there, and there's a deck still there. I mean, he has to break the house down like another 3 feet off from the top, but the door is still going to be there? I mean, do you have to put a small door in? And who fits off this door? And then he has a deck there? He's saying it's an attic. But why do you have a door and going off to a deck if it's an attic?
Well, it's not an attic, it's a third unit.
He just said it's an attic. It's going to be an attic. That's because the, it's not going to be high enough for an average person.
We don't know that until he takes it down.
Well,
If it passes the building code, it can be habitable.
So when you have plans, don't you have to say how tall the room is going to be to get? When you bring the plans in, don't you have to say the room is 6 feet high? The ceiling is 6 feet high? You can just build a house and then the building department goes in and sees how high the ceilings are?
Well, if you're a builder, you know how high you have to build the minimum ceiling height. And if you choose not to do that, you're at risk because when they come around, they'll notice it. And they'll tell you that you can't use those rooms.
Well, the house, I mean, that deck, I can throw a ball onto the deck. So whoever's on that deck they can look right into my house. It's way too high. And they did it black, so it's a great big black thing in front of the house. Not only it took our view away, but we have this great big black mass in front of the houses, in front of, all Stanley Court. We all lost our view. So, thank you for listening.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Palmacci? Yeah, her hand's up. She's declining. Okay. But then she puts her hand back up. So we've allowed access, ma'am, and for some reason you're not accepting it. We have no way of knowing what's your thought process. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Obviously, the city's chosen to try to provide people access through remote participation. However, the laws clearly state law on the open meeting, that in the event of technical difficulties or people's inability to get on, we're not bound to stop or to interfere with the public process. So unless she can get on, we'll give it another minute. And we will close the public testimony and move on.
Joe, while we wait, just a couple of quick comments. Is that allowed?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just all due respect to the neighbor who just spoke. If I lived in her home, I might think the same thing, but this house is now at 30 feet. View obstruction is not part. We're not allowed to consider that. She can consider that as the neighbor, but we're not allowed. And the fact that it's black, whether it's blue or white, I don't particularly like the look of the building, but we don't get to choose the color either. So those things matter to the neighbor, but not to me.
And we took into all those factors when we denied the height exception. Because it is taller than 30 feet. Right
Yes,
now.
sure. That's the time to look at it. Sure.
Rest of that. All right, so we're going to close public testimony. Discussion by the board. My thoughts. So what's before us now is basically a change in the architecture of the house. It's on the same footprint that we approved. It's the same floor plans that we approved. We did deny them the right to go up as high as they did and said you got to bring it down under the 30 or the same factors will be in play. So basically, that's what we've got in front of us. Permission to alter the permit to this updated set of plans. That's what's before us. I think having to take the building down a few feet is pretty unprecedented. I'm not saying it's not right. So I guess I would support proving with the changes, what's new.
So what's before us is kind of the as-built flat roof for, and the height only changes. So
Top of the building.
the roof going from the pitched roof to a flat roof never came before us. And
Well, this
it's
is
not
a
before us
change.
now.
It is now asking us to change from the original plans that we approved to this new set of plans. So it's an amend the permit to the new set of drawings. That's what's before us.
And I know we have no purview or jurisdiction on design and height. If this was an original application with this height, being at the legal height it is and design, I would probably treat it like any other. However, I always look to public testimony as well on their, in favor or opposition of the application. And I take those testimonies, closely. They're living in the neighborhood. These are the people that are going to be dealing with the construction and the changes and all this. The reality is, I would probably be in support based on the legal jurisdiction this applicant is providing currently. So for those reasons, I do have that support, but I think it's been a really ugly process, a real messy process. I hate seeing it go this way. I really do, because it just shows lack of consideration of the neighborhood when you have an applicant that just thinks they can do what they want at every turn, and it's just disappointing. That's all.
I was just going to say that I have reasons to not like the change to the flat roof, but that's not before us. If it had come before us, I would have argued against it.
Well, it is before you in that we approved a different looking building.
Speak in the mics, everyone, please.
We approved one set of plans. He submitted and started building on a different set of plans. And they created a whole new violation of height, which we turned down.
But the building inspector gave him the go-ahead to change to a flat roof. So,
Right.
so I think that's water under the bridge.
Yeah, I think my comment is I don't like the building. I think it's an ugly building personally. But other buildings that we've approved, I thought were ugly as well. And I don't think that we're the pretty police. So I think that, to me, the question before us, that's always before us, is this substantially more detrimental to the original building, and how would I have responded if this was originally before us? I think I would have said, I think it's ugly and I don't really like it, but I don't think it's substantially more detrimental to the entire neighborhood, considering you have commercial spaces on the downside of this building as well.
Any other discussion? Are we ready for a motion? Are you inclined to make a motion?
Special permit.
It's a special permit to
Modification of special permit.
Modify the existing special. Okay, I'll make a motion of the application of T&J Real Estate Investments LLC to modify the existing special permit as provided in the revised set of plans that we received.
Seconded.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to abstain from this vote.
Yep, you can do that. Motion's been made and seconded on approval to modify special permit at 6 Parker Court. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Ruiz,
Yes.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay, further decisions favorable. I guess we made a halfway compromise.
Yeah, I'm going to use this for its worth as a case study for any future applicants. Who say, I had a guy once went to tear off 2.5 feet of a building. So you better make sure you have that thing measured correctly.
Thank you. Okay, our last hearing of the evening is the application of Jacqueline Ricard seeking a special permit of variance to convert a 3-family dwelling to a 2-family dwelling and for reduced off-street parking requirements at 86 East Main Street.
Good evening. The last time this evening, in case you forgot, my name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions with an address of 123 Main Street in Gloucester. This petition is on behalf of Jackie Ricard here tonight. And the proposed work is to take a 3-family property and convert it to a 2-family property, construct a dormer on one side of the roof, and create a designated parking area at the bottom of the property. We are in the R10 medium high density residential district. We are in the East Gloucester Square Historic District, which I learned existed through this application. And there's an existing 3-floor, 3-family structure that currently has no off-street parking. although previous tenants have parked kind of, parallel in that little gravel area from time to time with questionable permission to do so. So the two pieces of relief we're asking are, one, a special permit to alter and expand the non-conforming structure that pertains to the dormer, and then a special permit for parking. The change in use is by right. You can go from a 3 to a 2 by right because 2 is an allowed use. However, a 2-family in the R10 requires 3 parking spaces. As I said, there are 0, and based on the shape of the lot, they can only get 2. So we need a special permit to reduce down to 2 parking spaces from the 3 that are required. Per usual, I have all the plans in the file. Again, this is the site plan that kind of shows how tight this lot is and how little room there is for parking and why they actually have to basically delete a unit and then, demolish half of the lower end of the building to find a place for parking. And this shows you 2 standard cars. As you can see, there's considerable room in front of these cars between the wall. I think in my application, I gave you some citations about different vehicles. I think we can get an F-150 parked nose to tail without hanging out in East Main Street. Obviously not trying to, hide anything here. These spaces, you'll either have to back in so you can pull straight out, or you'll be backing out. However, if you've driven down East Main Street, you'll see driveways like across the street and to the left. They park nose in, their rear bumper is at the sidewalk, and they back out into East Main Street. Welcome to Gloucester, right? It's not what you do in a brand new planned community out in the Midwest, but out here, it's what we do with the roads we have. So again, this is what the building would look like from the front. This is what the building would look like from the side. Again, you can see the cars coming out. There's a lot of room shown. We wanted to pull those cars back as far as possible to see how much room we had without getting onto the street. And so you can imagine a much longer car getting closer to the building. There's a picture of the existing condition, the overhead shot, the assessor shot. And so the standard we have is, will this alteration be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood and the current structure? So I guess the alteration does include the gutting out of the lower level, but more, I think, pressingly would be the dormer itself. We have a front yard setback existing nonconformity being increased, but again, that is to kind of overhang and cover this car area, and we're reducing the intensity of the use. So I don't think you'll find the alterations to the building being substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. And then for the parking, again, you're required to provide 1.5 spaces. You have to find 3 spaces in order to do so. The lot is like 30 feet wide. It's just, not going to happen. This was truly the best they can do, as you can imagine. Would have been nice if there was another way. I want to say that the applicants, prior to going with this plan, approached 2 abutters with what appears to be additional land that is not used by either abutter. They were offered substantial sums of money to allow to purchase parking spaces and were turned down by both neighbors. So this was not the first, this was plan B, if not plan C. They would have much preferred to be able to fit all 3 spaces on a neighboring lot, but literally no one who has the space would sell the space. And although I can't divulge the precise offer, I can tell you that if someone had offered me that for parking spaces on land I don't use, I would have been happy to give it to them. So then we have to go, okay, the reduction in parking has to still be within the intent and purpose of the GZO. Right now we have 0 off-street parking spots. So if the applicants didn't do anything, we'd continue to have 3 units with 0 parking spaces. This would bring us down to 2 units with 2 parking spaces. I'd say that's a win-win right there. You're reducing the density in a small lot, closer to what the zoning ordinance calls for as far as lot area per dwelling, and you're increasing from 0 to at least 2 spaces. So I think we're consistent with the intent and purpose of the GZO, creating parking where possible. We just can't hit it on the nail and give you the 3 compliant spaces. So again, we're asking for a special permit to alter and expand non-conforming structure and a special permit for parking. And I will end my share there. Thank you.
So the dormer is pretty cut and dry. I don't see that. Any objection to that I would think of. That's the special permit to alter and expand. If you're taking it from 3 to 2, what's kicking the parking requirement? Because of change of use?
Yes, so
You keep it, call it a 3.
because then if they go to renovate it, it'd require a sprinkler system.
Oh, yeah, much right. I mean, I gotta say that parking is probably, you couldn't pick a worse spot. You know, if it was the other side of the street, it's the open side of the curve, this side of the street. Boy, you'd be backing right out into that sharp curve. It kind of reminds me over Concord Street. Across from the little mini mart there, the liquor store. We had turned one down there because that corner was so sharp the other way. And we actually asked the traffic commission to rule. And it was crazy dangerous. I mean, I don't know.
I'm just a question about the plot layout. It appears from the pictures and from letters that we have that there really is no sidewalk there on that side of the street.
Yeah.
Although it looks like there's a concrete apron in front of it.
It's a gravel apron.
And it goes to one side, but it doesn't go past the outcropping.
Right, then the neighbor's fence kind of shows up and the
You
neighbor's
look on
fence is tight.
your site plan, the last page, it does show the edge of the pavement is considerably out from the property line. So there's some pickup there. It's just if it didn't curve the other way immediately with the big ledge, you could almost, so 3 to 2, can't go 3 to 2 and with no parking? That kicks in the parking?
Speak up, Joe, please.
I'm sorry, yeah, we're just talking, we're going from 3 to 2, and going to 3 to 2 triggers all this parking requirement, and that still he's not even going to be able to meet, proposing 2 instead of 3. But presently you got 3 units with no parking. So it's
Clearly improving the situation as far as parking goes.
yeah, other than that it being such a dangerous place to park. But,
Yeah, they got to park everybody's parking somewhere though.
Hmm?
I'm looking at a street view right now, which shows a car parked right in front of that house on the grass.
right, yep, 1.
So just to show, I mean, you see what's happening in the neighborhood, right? This parking lot's not too bad, but like these cars right here, this person in the truck pulled in, backed in, the person in the wagon's going to back out on East Main Street. They come down another
Yeah,
house.
The other side though,
Yeah,
the curb goes the other way.
That's true. They have a sidewalk, but and so we have the neighbor to the right is built up to the road. There's no room there. And then again, this neighbor here with the fencing where the boat is, they were approached, they were offered, money. It's absolutely their right to say, no, we don't want to. And that's the choice they made. But again, you look at this and go, okay, the zoning ordinance says, find me 3 spaces. We're at least trying to get you 2, 1 per unit. And this is truly, the best you can do.
Yep, good effort. Well, want to talk more or take public testimony? All right, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. If you're in favor, if you're on Zoom, hit your raise hand button and we'll bring you in, hopefully. Anyone in favor of the application? Seeing no one. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Name and address first for everyone, reminder, and then tell us your thoughts.
I'm Alicia York. I live at 202 Washington Street. My mother.
Madam, can you get your mouth right in front of that microphone? Just like, a
Very
singer.
nervous.
Yeah, but they can't hear you at home or
Okay.
on the recording.
So I'm Alicia York. I live over on 202 Rear Washington Street. I'm talking from my mother, Margaret York, who lives at 90 East Main Street, which is the Brown House, directly right there. The owner resident 90 East Main, which directly abuts 86 East Main Street. Margaret York is 76 years old and resides next door to the subject property. She is the primary caregiver of her 75-year-old sister who has Down syndrome, significantly cognitive disabilities, and uses a wheelchair. The proposed construction of a two-car parking garage or space at 86 East Main Street presents serious and immediate safety concerns for Margaret, her sister, and the broader public. This section of East Main Street is already hazardous. There is no sidewalk along our side of the street. When assisting my aunt in her wheelchair, Margaret York or I must navigate along a narrow shoulder area adjacent to the roadway, which is only 20 feet of area where she wants to put these cars. The recently painted white lines intended as a bicycle lane does not provide meaningful protection, particularly given on how close vehicles travel to the edge of this roadway when rounding the curve. The area is only 2 feet. The width of an average wheelchair is 18 inches. Visibility at this location is severely limited due to the sharp curve. Motorists cannot see oncoming traffic for several car lengths in either direction. Vehicles frequently approach the curve at high speeds, including large trucks, 18-wheelers, and tow vehicles hauling boats. Drivers often travel extremely close to the adjacent homes, and there have been instances where vehicles have struck yards, fencing, and property in this area. Backing out of or pulling into a driveway at this curb is inherently dangerous. Adding a two-car parking lot under the house will increase the number of vehicle movements entering and exiting directly into the already compromised roadway. Under Massachusetts law, a driver exiting a driveway or parking area bears responsibility in a collision with through traffic. In practical terms, this means that anyone attempting to exit the proposed garage or under the house would be placed in a highly vulnerable position with limited visibility and little reaction time for oncoming vehicles. The risk of serious injury is not imaginary. It is predictable and very real. On Christmas Day, I was involved in a collision at this exact location. I actually pulled up to drop off Christmas gifts, and although I exercised caution and entered the roadway only when it appeared clear, a vehicle traveling from around the curb collided with mine. The accident shows how hard it is to clearly see and judge oncoming traffic at this corner. I have video documentation available should the board wish to review it, which I sent it to the lady on the end. There has also been at least one prior incident where a vehicle parked facing oncoming traffic at this location was instructed by police and parking enforcement to relocate due to the safety risk created by this curb. This further illustrates that public safety concerns at this site are recognized, ongoing, and cautioned against. For elderly residents caring for a disabled family member who relies on wheelchair, the consequence of increased traffic conflict points are especially severe. If vehicles are entering or exiting a new garage, I may be forced into the active travel lane while assisting my aunt, placing both of us at risk. There is no sidewalk to provide safe separation from traffic, including additional driveway access at the curb would intensify an already dangerous condition. The Zoning Board of Appeals has the responsibility to consider not only dimensional compliance, but also the practical safety implications of proposed changes. Approving this project would not only introduce increased vehicle conflict and potentially fatality at this location with documented visibility limitations and traffic hazards. For these reasons, we respectively and strongly request that the board deny the application for a two-car parking garage at 86 East Main Street in order to protect the safety of residents, pedestrians, motorists, and especially vulnerable individuals living in the neighborhood. Enclosed are photographs documenting the roadway conditions. Video evidence is also available. Thank you for your time and consideration. And there's only ever been one car parking there for whoever owned the house, which was a broken down car for many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll share my screen one more time.
We got one more.
Oh, sorry.
Haven't closed. Okay, you should be on. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Saltanat Berdikeva. My address is 33 Metal Street in Gloucester. I regularly drive on East Main Street, and I am speaking in strong opposition to the proposed two-car garage at 86 East Main Street. This project is a serious public safety concern. The corner where this house sits has limited visibility, especially around the curve. Drivers cannot see oncoming traffic clearly, and vehicles often travel close to the edge of the road. And adding a garage here would create a dangerous new point where cars will be pulling in and out, forcing drivers to make split-second decisions in an already risky area. I am concerned for everyone who uses this road. If a car is exiting this proposed garage, it will be nearly impossible for anyone approaching to react in time. Any driver could be in harm's way, and the consequences could be severe. This is not a speculation. It is a predictable hazard based on how traffic moves along this stretch of the road. Everyone should be concerned, including the members of this board. And as the previous speaker testified, she was in an accident on that road due to the dangerous curve. We all deserve to feel safe using our streets. Approving this garage would ignore the reality of the curve, the traffic patterns, and the fact that pedestrians are forced to share a very narrow shoulder with moving vehicles. No one should have to risk their life just because the ZBA decides this location was suitable for a driveway and a garage. There's no safe way to add a garage here, and approving it would knowingly put people at risk, and ZBA would be responsible for it. So for the safety of drivers, pedestrians, and residents, I urge the ZBA to deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep. Beverly's up again. See if she can come in. Can you do that? We don't seem to be able to bring you in, but we're going to see if audio, if you'd be able to speak. But you have to unmute yourself and try talking. No, she's not. Can you unmute, please? Try that. There you go.
That's the first time it came up. Yes, Beverly Palmachi, 8 Commonwealth Avenue. I agree with what the last two speakers said, that we all know how difficult it is to drive down East Main Street. It's, I can't imagine adding another situation that makes it that much more dangerous. I can't imagine being in that parking space and pulling out into traffic. You could pull in. I don't know how you could come out, particularly if you were backing out. It just seems impossible. It seems as though it would be impossible to back in. I think most of us know who lives next door. Having worked with disabled people myself in group homes, you're dealing with things that other people aren't dealing with. I'm in complete sympathy with Alicia York, who just spoke. I just think it's a bad situation. I can appreciate the owners wanting to add parking, but it seems like a very dangerous place. So I don't know how I got to speak this time, but maybe I won't have the problem again. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, we'll allow rebuttal.
Thank you. Just to clear up what the second person said, this is not a garage. This will be open, so there will be no sidewalls constraining view for either the cars leaving or for pedestrians coming through. However, I'm going to share my screen. I do want to just make sure everyone understands a couple of things. One is that when we look at the roadway, if I come over here to the street view, excuse me, while I manipulate this. So the property line is back where the white fence is approximately. And so when we say we have 20 feet to the property line, we have 20 feet inward of where that fence is. There's this little bonus area which is actually part of the layout of East Main Street. And so we did some measuring real quick. I was with Jackie just now and did some quick measuring. And so that edge of pavement is between 23 and 24 feet away from that bearing wall. That would be the limit of how far a car could park in. And so the two things I want to point out is that because there's that much space, again, with an F-150, you might not be so lucky and able to do it, but with, with a quote unquote normal car, you'd be able to, if you're parked up here, you'd actually be able to kind of angle your back end out and then pull that way. So there is an opportunity for someone who has, again, a RAV4, a Civic, something like that, to actually get some turning motion starting on the property, so they're not just backing straight out. Again, if you're in a F-150 Super Crew, you're backing straight out. I can't predict who's going to own what, but more importantly, what I do want to point out that Jackie is willing to offer, if I make sure I grab the right set of plans here, is that this area between the property and the edge of paving, obviously we can't do anything without DPW permission. Mike Hale has to give us the okay, but Jackie has said that if the DPW says okay, she is willing to put stone pavers or some other sort of, clear visual hardscape between the property line and the edge of pavement. It'll kind of create a visual sidewalk. Again, she can't control what's the building to the right goes all the way to the pavement. She can't control what the neighbors to the left do, but for her little 29-foot strip of this to try and make her section a little better, she'd be willing to fill that area with DPW permission, again, with pavers or something that would delineate a sidewalk appearance. And again, the 20 feet we're talking about for parking would not involve any of this green area between the property line and the edge of the pavement. But aside from that, I don't know how much more we can, it's just constrained by the geometry of the site.
In reference to that fence, so I can get a better understanding, where would the, butt end of the car be past or to that fence line?
So the biggest, again, the F-150 Super Crew,
just a regular
bumpers at that fence. If the nose is up at the wall, the bumpers at that fence. If it's a RAV4, the back end of the RAV4 is 5 feet further in than that fence, which means it's 8 feet from the pavement, which again, why you'd actually be able to start some turning motion. So you're not backing 90 degrees straight into East Main Street. You can start making a little bit of a turn.
So you're saying a regular, what's the height?
The Outback, the Outback.
It would sit, up against the wall, beyond the fence, 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah, assuming an Outback is maybe slightly longer than a RAV4, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
I live in a tandem parking spot. I live on a busy street. All I can do is pull out. I can't do 3-point turn or anything. I want to understand what I want to see, or I don't want to see, I should say, is the rear end of that car sticking out on the street.
No, even the F-150 doesn't come past this white fence, and anything smaller than a F-150 Super Crew is actually further in than that white fence.
I know this is not a relevant question entirely, but what's the height from the ground to the underside of that first floor? If it's,
Let's see if we have that.
if you could fit a Super Crew, oh, you
Yeah,
got,
no, there's good height because they're taking out the entire first.
all right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have an existing three-family home with 0 parking spaces. It's been there for a long time. And we have an applicant who wants to reduce it to a 2-family home, not make the home any smaller, other than losing a little on the first floor, but picking up a dormer. So basically, obviously making it 2 better, units. But a lot of these things are triggering us to have to normally ask for 3 parking spaces. And they're saying, well, we can only fit 2 on the width of the lot. So normally, if this was sitting up on wherever, I think we'd say, okay, that's not a problem. We've allowed 1 less parking spot just because of reality. And the only difference here so far to me, I'm still not sure it's not the better of 2 evils, is that it's a tough spot to pull out of. So, I don't know, what's everyone thinking?
I think this fits the definition of substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. That it is detrimental if that parking
Public
were
safety.
put there, public safety.
My argument to that is it's a 3-family home, whether they made any modifications to it or not. You still have a 3-family home with no parking. And I'm trying to be mindful of any new ownership of the property, what they can do in their legal right to have a better quality of life of parking. And there's no parking spot nearby. They would have to walk on a very dangerous road to park that vehicle somewhere, whether it's Cripple Cove or wherever. So when you talk about endangerment, who is really being put more at risk? The person who has to walk on a road that has no sidewalk, no lighting, high traffic, versus putting a vehicle within a fair setback. I know it's, you need, it's requiring a 1 less parking spot. To me, I think that's a safer bet for the neighborhood entirely, because I couldn't imagine walking that street at night, trying to cross the street with no sidewalk, no visibility, no cross. I don't even see a crosswalk there. I know this house. I walked to that house, and it was dangerous just trying to walk across the street. To know that I would have to constantly live my life like that, I just find it a little troublesome. And that's how I'm trying to perceive it. I know everyone has their own opinion to it, but.
So the application to alter and expand, if that was just before us and we weren't thinking about the parking spaces, we would certainly allow that dormer. We certainly would allow, if they wanted to, keep in mind, if you look at your right side elevation, the bay window up above this overhang for the carport is already there. So they're not getting closer to the street. They're not they're not increasing the building size. They're just opening up underneath to kind of be able to tuck some cars under
I agree,
there,
which I think is safer than.
which is safer than parking in
it
front of
on-
the building,
Right.
which is what's going on now. So like I say, I couldn't think of the modifications to the building being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I do understand the concern about the cars.
Yeah, and I'm on Street View here. Obviously, I'm at home. And I'm looking, people are just parking along the ledge is where people park, and their cars are actually out on the pavement.
Out onto the street partially, right? Yeah.
They are partially on the street. Yep. The dangerous road. That's all there is to it. I mean, you can't take that away. And there's a house there.
Anything any condition we could make that would improve the safety?
Yeah, you can tell them to be careful when they back up or drive out, but I don't think that needs to be in the decision.
I know it.
Mr. Chair, if you wanted lighting placed,
I'm sorry?
if you wanted a condition, lighting placed, there's an overhang. You want lighting on the leading edge that, illuminates below to make sure that you'd hope their headlights be on anyway, but a car coming out at night would be illuminated by spotlights coming from the overhang. Something to that effect, we can take conditions like that. If you want to take us up on the offer to put the
might
pavers
help.
down.
Something like that.
Yeah, you might. I mean, again, this would be like a DPW or maybe even state because of the double yellow line there. It's not a bad idea to have a little sign. I mean, sometimes you see signs, blind corner, blind driveway. I mean, there's different signs that you see out there that I don't know how much people pay attention to them, but you're sort of alerting to what's going on. So, but I wouldn't condition that. I think it would just be smart if you could get it in there.
You do a concave mirror, convex mirror.
Yeah. That would, obviously, if I was parking in there, I'd put that up for myself, make it easier, safer. Sometimes you see them across the streets even. Anybody thoughts? Are you comfortable with it?
And I just, when you're talking about safety,
Can't hear you guys.
I'm just thinking about the applicant's safety right now, not to discourage anybody else. Someone's gonna buy the home, and I don't know what other options they have to make it as accessible to parking as what is proposed here, and to put parking that's gonna set behind the fence line. And my initial thought was it was gonna be sitting out in the street. If you're telling me you're sitting beyond the fence line, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, people can choose to back in.
Right.
Most people don't.
I have to back out every
Right.
day.
Every
so it's-
driveway in the city, well,
Yeah.
not every, but most homes have a single car wide driveway you pull into.
Most guys,
And you back out onto your street. That's not, so I don't see this being a detriment to the neighborhood.
yeah, I mean, if you look at most of those that, Favazza pointed out, a lot of cars are backing out. I mean, I just trying to think if a person's got to park somewhere else and cross that street every time to try to get to their home, if there's a safety concern, that would be it for me. So again, they're providing parking where there once was no parking. I don't.
The guidance, the criteria is a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. So that's the large umbrella, whereas the concern you're expressing is for the people who occupy it.
Right.
And the people who own it now bought it in the current situation. They didn't buy it assuming that they were going to be able to improve it. They might have hoped. So it's sort of
that's
like,
why we have a
are we
zoning
trying?
board.
Yes, I know, but it's sort of the scales of justice here are the future occupants of this house versus anybody driving on that road, and anybody backing out of there is not going to be able to see anything coming from their side because of the building next to it. It's a completely blind.
Well, there's no sides on this carport.
Yes, but
And
there's a
it's-
but there's a building right on the
Well,
edge.
there's a building 8 feet from there.
I mean, we approved applications where the vehicle had to back out. I remember, and I made an argument. I said, as long as that retaining wall was set back far enough where someone can see pulling out. And in this matter, there's nothing obstructing the view other than pulling out from the parking. There's no sidewalls. It's open. There are things that we could do to, whether the city wants to put signage, the condition to put a light above the overpass to signal. I don't see it being more detrimental because you're creating a parking spot where there once was not one there before.
Right, and so you've got there's going to be if nothing changes, there's going to be a 3-family home there.
Right.
And cars are going to
What do you think?
parallel to the street like
They're going to do what they
now.
want anyways. Right.
And that's going to be a worse situation. They're going to take it down to 2-family and get a couple of cars at least off the road. I see it as what's there is not going away. This is, to me, is an improvement.
Right. I mean, it's just, I've walked through that house. It's in
perfect,
dire
but an
condition.
improvement.
It's an improvement to Gloucester and the value of the property and the safety, I think, in my opinion, based on giving and providing parking spaces versus parking sideways, however you please, or parking it at another designated area and then taking a risk crossing that street every day. I think we're trying to make people's lives a little bit more comfortable rather than the opposite here. I mean, somebody wants to choose to pull out of their driveways at their own discretion. I got to do it every day. Maybe that's my take on it because that's just what it is. I pull out on a very busy street. I proceed as caution. Unfortunately, things do happen. I hope that's not the case for the future of anybody that's living in that neighborhood. But those are accidents that are not, in my opinion, caused because they're backing out. It's because people are speeding and not obeying the law. That shouldn't be fault the residents that are living there. That's just my opinion.
Okay, let's move it forward.
I'm ready to make a motion whenever.
Go ahead, please, Michael.
Application of Jacqueline Ricard seeking a special permit to alter and expand non-conforming structure. Conversion, you don't need a conversion, any permission to go from a 3 to a 2, and to reduce off-street parking requirement to 2 spaces instead of 3. I would move approval for the special permit to alter and expand. I don't think it is I think it is increasing the nonconformity with the dormer, actually. I don't think it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I would move approval for the reduction in parking from 3 to 2 because they're reducing the building from 3 units to 2, and there will be an accommodation for at least 2 vehicles on site.
Second.
Motion on the floor and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes on both.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes on both.
Mr. Wilson,
No.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. You heard our decisions favorable on the requests. Thank you.
Get your decision. Thank you.
Okay. Our next meeting is March 12th. There's only one new application that day. Your packets are here. We're also going to be taking up with a public hearing and discussion the new rules and regulations for Chapter 40B comprehensive permit applications with the city of Gloucester. And this, I think you all got this. If not, we'll make sure it's out to everyone fresh. These are some recommendations that we're going to put in place because there are many more coming down the pipe and they involve a lot of city time and consultants and different boards looking at a thing, all under a one-shop all zoning board permit for the comprehensive 40B. So it's costing us much more. They're much drawn out. So we're going to copy some of the other cities hopefully and adopt a comprehensive permit application structure. Hopefully it'll cut down some of the delays, get us more information that we need. Feel free to, we'll modify it any way anyone thinks. If you want to make some recommendations ahead of different things in there, you can do that to the board or to Suzanne Egan, and she'll be presenting it with us at the next meeting. So we should have plenty of time. The only other thing continued is Main Street. I think we've put everything else to bed so far.
Do we have those proposals or?
Yeah, did everyone get this?
It was a while ago. It was emailed. It was the one that she.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
Now let's get new versions out to everybody.
We'll make sure everyone gets
And don't-
a new version email from
Don't be
everyone.
afraid to mock it up or come with suggestions of things that look right, don't look right. We just want to make the process better because there's going to be, we already know at least 2 to 3 more, possibly 5 that are coming down the pipe for 40Bs. So
It's a
with
new
that said,
New application?
Hmm?
That's the new application? Okay.
there's going to, yeah. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.